This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hey guys, Keith Engel. It's not just TGI Sports Talk, it's TGI Sports Talk College Football Huddle. How are you guys tonight? Gosh, bit of another crazy week in the NCAA as we'll be talking about in a few minutes. Still waiting to be joined by my cohort, Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. And sorry, got a text, was not from him. Anyway, guys, I hope you watched. I hope you enjoyed our live remote last week, shortened show, live from the Carnival Magic last week. Somehow some women's group from Bangladesh put some ownership tag on some of my content, which I'm still a little shocked at. But it is what it is. Hope they enjoyed the show. Anyway, we had fun doing it. Hope you guys had fun watching it. We did a few remotes live from the Magic, and when I'm back there in February, we'll do some more. I don't know if we'll still be doing this show in February. We'll decide what we're going to do in the off season, but that's a long ways away. Another interesting week in college football. Not as many upsets. Actually, there were no upsets in the top 10 last week for the first time, gosh, in quite some time. But still some interesting results. You had Penn State losing to Illinois in 9 overtimes. Guys, the college football overtime rules are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And it's something that's got to be addressed. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for welcoming me back, Mickey Delaney. It's good to be back. It's fun to be on a vacation. It's fun to be on the ship. But I'll tell you what, it's even more fun to be here with you guys. So thanks for being here with me. Again, as I started talking about the college football overtime rules got to be revisited. This whole 9 overtime game with Penn State and Illinois last week was just, look at, they put these rules in thinking they're keeping kids safe, but it's not even football anymore. You play 4 quarters of football, you're tied. Look at, either have a sudden death, play 1 more quarter, do something. I mean, and ties, by the way, are okay. Ties are okay for eons in college football and pro football. It's okay if you have a tie and you've played as hard as you can. I mean, I'd rather see a tie than these silly overtime rules that they keep coming up with. I think the NFL might have the best rule right now. I'm not crazy about that one either, but I think it's the best one. College football, you start at the 25 and gosh, how's that football when you're starting on your opponent's 25? You're going to match scores. I can remember scores going into, they put new rules in so they could no longer get games going into the 70s. Well, we got them happening now in regulation. We'll get that in a second. But these 9 overtime games, just not fair to anybody involved. Not that Penn State would be better off with a tie in this particular situation, but you're not doing these kids any favors, sending them out there to play a game that's not even football anymore. So let's look at that. Bad loss for Penn State, though. Out of the playoff conversation. Done. Fini. Some of the other interesting games last week. Wake Forest, who has become one of my favorites. I'm a Miami Hurricane fan. John Gonzalez, if you're out there listening, I have not given up my Hurricane fandom, but I like good stories in college football. I'm not a bandwagon jumper, but I like good stories. Wake Forest is a great story. Wake Forest is still the ACC's only route to a playoff, an undefeated Wake Forest team. As good as Pittsburgh's playing right now, they've got a loss and a not a good loss on their resume. They're not going to make the playoff if they win the ACC. Wake Forest, the only way the ACC gets a big playoff invite. They win 70-56 in regulation at Army. Guys, we've talked to this, and next week we'll get we'll do our best to get Larry Sorensen, Wake Forest color coordinator on again next week, as they're going to have now played Army and Duke. We'll get them on for an update. There's some big games coming up for Wake Forest. They can do this though. They've got North Carolina State on their resume yet. They've still got Clemson, who's eminently beatable. Everybody on their schedule they can beat, but they could lose to any of them as well because their defense is, I don't know, like 97th or something in the country. It's horrible. As you saw, Wishbone offense run for 400 and some odd yards against them on Saturday. But they come away with a 70-56 win. Their offense is just unbelievable. Sam Hartman may be getting himself into the Heisman conversation, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think Wake's a great story. And look at this, isn't a small victory over Army. Army's got a good football team, well coached, playing at home in a tremendous home environment for Army. So congratulations to Wake Forest on continuing your winning ways. Great game in Ames last week between Ames, Iowa, between Ohio. I'm sorry, boy, I want to do that all the time. Iowa State and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was undefeated. Iowa State's had a rough start. Only one loss in the Big 12, though. Still in position. Both these teams now, even Oklahoma State after losing Saturday, still in position to win the Big 12. Let's not forget, that conference is wide open. Oklahoma's still got to play Iowa State. Oklahoma's still got to play Oklahoma State. And then you got a Big 12 championship game. So you can't count out Oklahoma, obviously, are still undefeated, still playing down their competition, only beat Kansas by a touchdown. Kansas had a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter, or tied this game in the fourth quarter. So you still got Baylor alive as well. So you got 4 teams alive in the Big 12. Can any of them get to the playoff if they're not undefeated? I doubt it. I doubt it very much. Undefeated Oklahoma will probably make it to the playoff. But that's probably the only shot, the only path they have to getting into a playoff is going to be an undefeated Oklahoma team. Oregon tried everything they could do to blow the game to UCLA last week. Playing in UCLA, they had a comfortable lead in the fourth quarter, and they gave up almost all of it. But they do hang on and win. I believe it was 31-24, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look here. 31-24. Tough loss for UCLA. A tough loss for the Pac-12 because Oregon does not dominate anybody except Ohio State, apparently. It's going to be very interesting, by the way, if Ohio State wins the Big Ten, Oregon wins the Pac-12. They're both 11-1. Well, let's just say, Oregon's got to get there first. I mean, that league is just kind of cannibalizing itself. But if both these teams finish at 11-1, it's going to be very interesting to see where the voters go. Where do the voters go on the playoff for this? Right now, Ohio State's ranked 5th in the coaches poll. Oregon's ranked 8th. Interesting. These things are always interesting, and things will get jumbled next week. Tuesday night. So we're on Wednesday. One of the reasons I wanted to do this show on Wednesday night. was the fact that once we got to this point, the playoff poll will be released, and we will have it on Wednesday to chat about and dissect it. And we're going to have a little more meat to chew on starting next Tuesday night. Well, next Wednesday night for us. The poll will be released on Tuesday, 11/2, the very first one. The first of, I think, let's see, I had this up here. So you're going to get the 9th, the 16th. You get 6 weeks of poll releases. Big TV event. Everybody makes big TV events about everything now. But this is when college football really starts to heat up, right? We're starting to get into our rivalries. We got Michigan, Michigan State this weekend. Michigan, Ohio State the next weekend. You got Penn State, Ohio State this weekend. Big Ten's going to start to straighten itself out here in the next 2 weeks. Very interesting what happens there. You still got some disarray in the Southeast Conference, the SEC. Georgia's got a 1-game lead over Kentucky and a victory over them. But the South's still wide open. Alabama, Ole Miss, Auburn, all with 1 loss. Now, Mississippi's got a loss to Alabama. Very doubtful if they're going to be able to win that division. Watch out for Auburn. Auburn has moved up to 10th in the polls. Let's see where they are in the coaches' poll. Oh, dear. Where's Auburn? I think they're a little further down than that. Where are you, Auburn? Coaches don't like Auburn, apparently. There's 21st in the coaches poll, 10th in ESPN poll. It'll be interesting next week to see where this game gets ranked. Big game against Ole Miss this week for Auburn. Auburn's had some nice wins. 1 tough loss to Penn State at Penn State, and 1 loss in conference. Interesting game coming up this weekend. Let's take a further look at the poll a little bit since we're talking about that. Let's take a look at some of the other scores from last week quickly. I'm not sure if Mark Mancini's joining us tonight or not. Hopefully everything's okay with him. And he hasn't lost another bet. Or maybe some of those guys in LA caught up with him. It's possible. I hope, Mark, you're really okay. And I hope that LA gang posse hasn't caught up with you. Let's take a quick look at the top 25 from last week before we jump into some stories. Coastal Carolina gets their first loss to a very tough Appalachian State team. Really good conference game here. They lose 30-27. Coastal Carolina's been on a great roll for 2 years. This is a great game. Take nothing away from Coastal Carolina. Great team. SMU, to be reckoned with in the AAC. There's still some life, guys. We've made it a foregone conclusion that Cincinnati, who I love, by the way. I love this conference. I say it every week. But Cincinnati's still got to deal with Houston and SMU in a regular season and in a conference playoff game. There's still more to come there. So a nice win for SMU last week against Tulane. Another big win, 55-26. Sonny Dykes doing a great job there. Sonny Dykes going to come up, probably mentioned prominently for the Texas Tech job, which came open this week with the firing of Coach Matt Wells, which we'll talk about a bit later. Cincinnati, as we mentioned, struggled with a 1-win Navy team. We talked about Navy being on a down cycle, that they would be back eventually, of course. We're sure, because I just love their coach, Ken. Well, will not try to say his last name ever. But Cincinnati squeaks out a 7-point win here. Cincinnati needs The rest of these teams that we're talking about in the mix for the playoff, and we'll talk more about here in the next few minutes. Cincinnati can't afford just to win. Most of these teams can afford to win, and they don't need pretty wins. They need nice wins, good wins, because I'll tell you what, they're going to look to find a way to get Cincinnati out of this. They don't want them. The big boys don't want them. I do. College football fans, I think, want to see a Cincinnati crash the party. We'll see what happens. Oklahoma, as I said, struggles. They did get a 12-point victory over Kansas, but they ought to be beating Kansas by 40, guys. 40. You get a 12-point victory, and Kansas was a possession away from being able to tie this game in the fourth quarter. Alabama rolls over Tennessee, but again, this game was close into the third quarter before Bama pulled away with 28 fourth quarter points. Alabama fans probably feel like they lost this game. Ohio State wins big. They've been winning big. They win 54-7 over a very disappointing Indiana team. C.J. Stroud is really hitting his mark. He's going to make his presence felt in the Heisman. We'll talk a little bit about the Heisman here in a few minutes. Michigan, nice victory over a Northwestern team that isn't at their best this year, but again, still a good victory, 33-7. Michigan moves to 7-0, but a big showdown this week against Michigan State. We don't know if either one of these teams is for real. And then they get their real matchup that will kind of tell the story with Ohio State coming up. Jim Harbaugh has yet to beat Ohio State. We already talked about Penn State sealing their fate. They lose 20-18 to Illinois in 9 overtimes. Come on, NCAA, fix this. Iowa State, we talked about with a slim win over Oklahoma State. Both those teams still alive to win the Big 12. Who knows? I don't think Iowa State's got any shot at a playoff, but who knows? This is such a crazy year. We talked about Oregon. Ole Miss, nice win over LSU in a week where Ed Orgeron and LSU have announced they'll part ways. We talked about this last week. It's a shame it's come to this for Coach Ed Orgeron, but look at great coach, great guy. I think he just fell in love with the fame and all the attention that was coming his way, and hopefully this is not something that follows him around. He doesn't know if he wants to coach again. We'll find out, I guess, right? So good luck. What else? Notre Dame with a nice win over UCLA, who's a train wreck, of course, but it's another win for Notre Dame, who's hanging in there at 13, one loss to Cincinnati. The more Cincinnati wins, the better that loss will look. Notre Dame, to have any chance to get in the playoff conversation, is going to need a lot of chaos to happen in the Big Ten, the SEC. No Wake Forest undefeated season. Cincinnati maybe to lose, but then that hurts their chances as well because a Cincinnati win doesn't look as good. So not a great position for Notre Dame. Wake Forest, we mentioned already. You know what? Wake Forest would be such a great story if they run the table and make the playoff, and I don't know how they could keep them out. Undefeated, Power 5 conference. Be unprecedented for them to be left out of this playoff. Might hurt Cincinnati. I don't know. But I guarantee you, Wake Forest and Cincinnati, or any combination of two, are in. The playoff will be expanded to 12 next year. Texas A&M continues their rebound after a tough stretch, losing 2 games badly. And they rebound with beating a bad South Carolina team, 44-14. My Miami Hurricanes rebound with a win over North Carolina State, who has played well this year. They lose at home to Miami wins at home 31-30. San Diego State with a nice win over Air Force, a really good Air Force team. San Diego State ranked 22nd still. Pittsburgh with a nice win over Clemson. Watch out for Pittsburgh. They could win this ACC, can't get in the playoff. They've already got one loss to, I think, Western Michigan. Not a good loss, and not one that they can rebound from to get in the playoff. But they could be in a big New Year's Day bowl. And I'll tell you what, Kenny Pickett has also put himself into the Heisman race. What else we got? Texas San Antonio wins again. Still undefeated, 8-0. Their coach is definitely going to be listed among the candidates for this Texas Tech opening as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see he become the front runner. I don't think Sonny Dykes is going to go there. I think Sonny Dykes likes what he's kind of building there at Texas. At SMU. I think he thinks his recruiting territory might be better. But Jeff Traylor at Texas San Antonio could be the guy to watch out for there. And they're having a great season. Still undefeated, 8-0, and they're going to be heading soon to the AAC and away from their current conference, which is, of course, Conference USA, which Conference USA takes a big hit, guys. They're losing quite a few teams. If I remember the teams right, Florida Atlantic, Charlotte, who else is going? Texas San Antonio, we mentioned. UAB is going, and I believe Rice is going to the AAU. And they also have lost Old Dominion, who's not a football power by any means, to the Sun Belt Conference. What other scores we got that we want to take a look at? Let's take a look at some of the conferences. We'll start with the ACC. Any scores we want to talk about there? Florida State with a huge win over UMass. You can't beat UMass by enough, though. Florida State has rebounded a little bit from a bad start, but not enough. 59-3. Syracuse breaks my heart. My only losing wager in college or the pros this week was my bet of Virginia Tech over Syracuse. What do we got here? Anthony Price. Hello, Anthony Price. Good seeing you tonight. Let me find the right mouse here, Anthony. I'll get your comment up here. Penn State's going downhill in their next game. Look at that Big Ten, Anthony, is really going to kind of play out here the next couple of weeks. I mean, you got pretty much a round-robin affair here between Michigan, Michigan State. You got Penn State and Ohio State this week. I believe you got Penn State and Michigan State the week after, and Michigan's Ohio State playing it. So that could be the deciding factor in at least a couple of the playoffs. I should say one of the playoff spots. You know, the winner of that league comes away with two losses. The Big Ten could be staying home, Anthony, right? I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Still covering last week's games, are we? We are. Any other? Let's see. What else we got here in the Big 12 or the ACC? Louisville with a win over Boston College. Boston College was looking promising, and they've fallen on hard times recently. Virginia, sneaky good, 6-2, a 48-40 win over Georgia Tech. Nice win for Virginia and Brock Mendenhall, who I like a lot. Great coach. And doesn't get enough attention, I don't think. The AAC, we talked about SMU. UCF gets a win over Memphis. Memphis has been staggering. They're usually better than this. Cincinnati, we talked about them sneaking it out. Houston and East Carolina had to wait around, I think, 5 hours to play this game because of weather. Got to be hard to play under those conditions, right? I think they were supposed to play at 3 o'clock. They kicked this game off about 8:30. and they get a win 31-24. South Florida, who's had a horrendous year, does get a win over Temple 34-14. Big 12 games. I think we talked about them all. We didn't talk about Texas Tech. Kansas State beats them. Kansas State, middling team this year. Texas Tech actually was 5-3, but a couple of horrendous losses to Texas and Arkansas. And as we said earlier, Coach Matt Wells was fired, and the rumor mill will start up about that job. And you're going to hear some names like, as I mentioned before, Sonny Dykes and Trailer from Texas San Antonio. West Virginia gets a win over TCU. Big 12 stronger than you think this year. There's a lot of parity in that division or that league in my mind. Back to the Big 10, Wisconsin beats Purdue. I liked Purdue. I didn't bet them, but I'm surprised Purdue, after moving into the top 25 and getting a big win on the road against Iowa, loses this game to Wisconsin as badly as they did, at least. Maybe it's not a surprise that they lost, but the fact that they lost so badly. And Purdue had themselves in a position to possibly be in contention to be in the playoff from the West, part of the Big Ten. So not a good loss there. Minnesota continues to keep pace with Iowa in that South. I thought Iowa was going to have a cakewalk to the championship game in the Big 12 or Big 10, and that's just not happening. Where else are we here? We talked about these other games. Minnesota, as I just mentioned, beats up Maryland. Maryland was looking really like a sleeper in the Big 10, and they have not followed through. They've really hit a rough patch here as we go through the middle part of the season. That's the Big 10. We don't care about that one. Let's look at the. We've talked about all the military schools who I like to always get a mention in here. What we got here? We got a comment just to see. Anthony Rice. The Big 10 is a powerhouse, especially that Big 10 North, Anthony, right? I mean, that North division is just loaded this year. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's going to really help Ohio State if they make it through the rest of this gauntlet, win the championship of the Big 10, coming out of that North, having beat all the best teams in the Big 10. Only the Oregon loss on their resume. They're likely going to win or get in a playoff ahead of the team they lost to if Oregon and Ohio State end up with identical 11-1 records. Is that fair? I don't know. But I know it's likely to happen. Jeff Picara, welcome, Jeff. How are you? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, you're right. We've been talking about your Nittany Lions there in big trouble. Tough loss last week. Illinois, it's amazing to me that Illinois was able to run the ball the way they could against Illinois. An Illinois team that gained like 26 yards on the ground the week before. I'm wondering, too, and Jeff, maybe you want to weigh in on this. And Anthony, I know you're, follow the Big Ten as well, but is the James Franklin rumors having an effect on this Penn State team? James Franklin's rumored for LSU. James Franklin's rumored for USC. James Franklin's going to come up rumored for every other job that opens up. Probably in the NFL too. Who the heck knows? But is this having an effect on his football team and been a distraction? Well, what you got here, Anthony? It's going to be Oregon versus Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Well, that means they don't make the playoff, I guess. Jeff's got unreal. I'd love to hear either one of your guys' takes on this James Franklin thing I brought up, and I'll come back to it in a second. So anyway, I don't think there's any other games I really want to look at from last week. We'll look at the Pac-12 real quick. Pac-12 again. Oregon can't get there because they don't win convincingly in a league that is not that strong. Washington beats up on a bad Arizona team. We talked about Oregon just getting by UCLA, almost blowing all of a big lead. USC loses to Notre Dame. USC just, again, they've driven the Ferrari of talent into the ditch. Who's going to want that job? Is this still a good job? Probably. Cal rolls over Colorado 26-3. BYU beats another Pac-12 team. I don't think they've lost in the Pac-12 this year. They're really the conference leader, even though they don't play there. 21-19 over the coachless Washington State team. And Oregon beats Utah. Oregon State, has been a bit of a surprise and could still have a chance at the playoff there as well. I did want to talk about the SEC. I didn't go through the SEC scores. Let's zip down here to the where are you? I can't get to the SEC scores. What's up? Why are you hiding on me? There you go. All right, let's see. We talked about that. We talked about A&M. We talked about Arkansas. No, Arkansas rebounds, but against Arkansas Pine Bluff, which isn't really a big deal. And nice win, though, 45-3. And Mississippi State, really, really good good offensive coach and Mike Leach. Not much defense, but they did beat up Vanderbilt this week. And actually, Mike Leach, I'm going to come back to you in a second, Jeff. I just got to play this clip real quick because it's just love it. It's my favorite. Mike Leach is really a character. If you don't, I got some other clips I can play Mike Leach, but this one's awesome.
We talked about on the broadcast that you hate candy corn. What's your favorite Halloween candy corn?
I completely hate candy corn. When I was a kid, well, gummy bears, let's see. Gummy bears for sure.
Sour or regular?
The Airbo, gummy the Airbo ones. And then the other thing I like is when they used to have the sprees in a box. Outstanding. You have to go to the dollar store to find it, but I do. And then the latest, there's still candy innovation, although a while back I found that Europe had better candy than we did overall, because they have gummy and everything. And then, they have those nerds clusters, which is new. Yeah, which is good. The nerds clusters is good. And then if you go chocolate, probably almond joy.
Love it. Hopefully you'll get some of that next week.
Yeah, we'll see.
So this is the new Portal
Guys.
Go.
Oh, God, hold on.
With you.
You can't make up Mike Leach, right? God. Oh, my God. We got gummy bears against candy corn. I got another great clip of Mike Leach to play at some point. I don't think we'll do it tonight, maybe another night, but maybe later if I get bored. Mike Leach talking about weddings, giving somebody wedding advice. So let's get back to James Franklin. All right, Jeff, let's get to your comment. James Franklin needs to be all in or leave already. He's had some good years. 3 out of 4 good years. I agree. 10 plus wins. Always seems to have one foot out the door. Well, and I would like to see him stay and move forward. Not too many super coaches out there to replace him. I agree. And this isn't all James Franklin's doing, right? I mean, we don't know how much. I don't see him campaigning for the job. So I don't know how much I can blame Franklin for that, but I think it's I gotta believe it's a distraction on a team. I'm not necessarily blaming Franklin, but it's got to be a distraction. Franklin is leaving next year. He seems not to care. I never seen 9 overtime in one game. That's because it's never happened, Anthony. First time ever. And as I said earlier in the show, it's a ridiculous system the NCAA plays. These overtimes, ties are okay. I'm okay playing an overtime play another quarter, play sudden death, play something that resembles football, not what we're doing right now. Let's see, Jeff's got another one. Penn State cannot build an offensive line. Well, offensive and defensive lines, the trenches are the keys to whatever football we're talking about. I don't care if we're talking about high school football, college football, professional football, your offensive and defensive lines. So important. So important to the, I don't know what I just did there. So important to, the success of your football team. You got to win in the trenches. If you don't, you're lost. That's it. Whenever the NCAA makes a rule change, it's always worse, it seems. I agree. I don't know who's worse, and this is obviously a college football show, but I'll just make this reference because we're in the middle of the World Series. I don't know who's worse at rules changes, Rob Manfred or the NCAA. And the NCAA is getting ready to reconstitute itself. We'll be talking more about that as we get into later in the season and maybe even the off season. And I'm going to leave it to you guys too. We've got a long ways to go before we're done here. Obviously, we got months, 2 months, 3 months almost of football left. But, we got to decide what to do with the show in the offseason. I'm trying to decide whether to do it weekly, do it monthly, not do it at all. So I'll get your guys' input. I'd love to talk about it. Good afternoon. Good evening, Rick. Sorry we didn't talk about your Georgia Gamecocks. Georgia Gamecocks. Sorry, Rick. There's still a lot of alcohol in my system from last week's vacation, which I'll try to wash them out now. The Georgia Bulldogs solidified their lead without playing a game this week. Great job. Let's talk a little bit about the poll. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Georgia 7-0, got Florida this weekend at Florida. Got to be careful, Rick. Got to be careful. Dan Mullen's a good football coach. Florida's had a couple stumbles. This isn't their best effort. This is their championship game, right? They got no shot at the conference championship. They got no shot at the playoff. They likely have no shot at a New Year's Day bowl. Georgia better be ready. Now, coming off a bye week, they should be ready. A tough place to go play football, and I think you'll agree with me there, Rick. I don't think Georgia's going to lose, but I think it might be closer than we think. We'll talk about that when we talk about next week's games. Cincinnati, another sleeper for them. They got Tulane. They've got to start winning more impressively. Here's the teams alive for the playoff. Georgia, Cincinnati, Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Oregon. I'm not going to say Ole Miss. I'm not going to say Iowa. But I am going to say Wake Forest. And I am going to say Oklahoma State. I guess I'm going to do that. I got to say Iowa. But Iowa's going to have some crazy stuff happen. Who's Johnny picking? I don't know where Johnny is. Mark, I'm a little worried about... Rick, I'm a little worried about Mark. I think the crowds in LA may have finally caught up with him after bashing the Dodgers as bad as he has the last couple of months. And now he's bashing the Lakers and UCLA and anything LA. How's Alabama over Oklahoma? So your record don't mean nothing. It's who you play. Well, it does. Oh, right now you're saying how is Alabama over Oklahoma? Here's the problem. The record does mean something, Anthony, and this is always an argument. I just talked a little bit ago, too, about Ohio State being ranked over Oregon. Look at the same record, and Oregon beat them. But the league's better. Ohio State's playing in a better league. Alabama's playing in a better league than Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is a classic example of playing down to your competition. I mean, they've had close calls against Kansas State, against Tulane, against just last week, Kansas. Nebraska? Yes, they're 8-0. I agree, but this is what happens with polls. It's going to be very interesting, as I said, next week. Next Tuesday night, we get our first look at the real playoff poll. And it's going to be interesting. We got some big games this weekend that are going to shake up the standings no matter what, with Michigan against Michigan State, Penn State against Ohio State. Wouldn't it be just like Penn State to really throw a wrench in Ohio State's season? Georgia and Florida. Ole Miss against Auburn. Auburn on a roll. They could beat Alabama. You got SMU at Houston, a really good game in the AAC. Some good, interesting stuff before we get to this first playoff poll. What's Rick got here? Getting ready for a Philly show tomorrow. I agree, but he didn't tell me he wouldn't be around tonight, I don't think. So it's possible they caught up with him, and I hope not. I like Wake, but their D gave up 56. Yeah, we talked about, Rick, I don't think you were here yet when I was talking about Wake. God, their defense is ranked like 91st or something like that in the country. And 56th Army. Now, Army's a good football team, but Army runs a wishbone offense, so you don't normally run up 56 points and 448 yards rushing or whatever it was. So Wake's got to be able to outscore their opponents. And if they get into the playoff, it's going to get ugly. I really think Wake can run the table in the ACC. They got North Carolina State yet. They got Clemson yet. And if they run the table, they're probably going to make the playoff, as I said earlier, but we'll see. Do you see an upset this weekend? Well, I was going to wait a little bit to talk about the games, but I did say earlier, Florida is going to be in the game against Georgia. Rick, I think Georgia will win. I'm not ready to say Florida will upset them, but I think Florida State, this has been my big predictions all year, right? But I think they're relevant. I don't think it's being wishy-washy when I say a team who's a big underdog, like Florida will be. I said this about Nebraska earlier in the year against Oklahoma. I said it about Rutgers at Michigan or at Wisconsin, that they'd be in the game in a position to tie the game in the fourth quarter, and I think Florida will be in that position this week as well. As far as an upset, you want an upset? I'll give you one. I'm going to say Penn. Do I want to do it? No. I'm going to say Michigan beats Michigan State, and I got to believe that's an upset, by the way, because I haven't seen the lines yet. Let's see. Do I have the daily lines right here? Hold on. Back it up. That's not an upset if it isn't. Let's see. Michigan's 4. You know what? I'm going to take Michigan State. There's your upset. Michigan State +4 at home beats Michigan. There's your upset, Anthony. We'll talk more about the games coming up in a little bit. Jeff's got Midshipman gave Cincy a good game. Maybe they beat Tulsa Friday night. Maybe. I think Navy's been playing better recently. They're not getting wins, but I think they're starting to, get their mojo back. Great football coach there. Great tradition there. They've had some really good football teams over the last decade. And I think they're ready to maybe start turning that corner again. And you can't root against. How can you root against you can't root against the military academies. There you go. Michigan State over Michigan. There's our upset. Before I get to the games for the week, and again, we've got all kinds of teams in line for let me go back to where I was here. We've got all kinds of scenarios for this playoff yet. You got teams all the way down to be honest with you might have teams as far down the coaches poll as 21 in Auburn, If Auburn runs the table and wins the SEC championship game, and Auburn's playing some pretty good football lately, they'll have to beat Ole Miss this week. They'll have to beat Alabama. They'll have to beat Georgia. Alabama, the state of Alabama may have a representative in the playoff, and it may not be Alabama. It might be Auburn. As far down as 21. I think ESPN's got them at 10. So this is where I'm talking about. Coach's poll has this team at 21 right now. It'll be interesting next Tuesday. And of course, they may or may not have beaten a number 9 team in the country in Ole Miss. It'll be very interesting to see where Auburn is in that first playoff ranking. There's a couple teams I'm interested to see where they are in this first ranking. Cincinnati, first of all. If they have another unimpressive outing this week, I don't doubt that it's possible they slide out of the top 4. I've said it before that when this ranking comes out, I don't think they want to put Cincinnati in, undefeated or not, at the outset, and then have to take them out later. They'll get all kinds of grief for that. It's happened before. It happened with TCU, maybe the first or second year of this format. They were ranked in the top 4. They didn't lose, and they fell out. I don't think these pollsters, the playoff pollsters, want to be responsible for that. I wouldn't be shocked to see Cincinnati on the outside looking in early on, and then they wait to see what happens with some of these other teams to see whether, because they don't want Cincinnati to get in there, and then Michigan State goes undefeated, and has to slide into the top 4. Oklahoma stays in the top 4. Georgia loses to Alabama, and they got to take both of them. Now all of a sudden you got Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Michigan or Michigan State, Cincinnati on the outside, 5. That's just a scenario. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying that's my prediction. But I don't think they want to be responsible for, and then Cincinnati undefeated, maybe behind all those teams, including a 1-loss Georgia and a 1-loss Alabama team. Doubt they want to see that scenario and they have to drop Cincinnati out of the top 4. So it's going to be very interesting. So I'm very interested to see where they rank Cincinnati. I'm very interested to see where they rank Alabama and Oklahoma, to Anthony's comment earlier. Interesting to see where they rank Oregon and Ohio State. Right now, Ohio State's ranked ahead of the team they got beat by. Iowa could be interesting. Notre Dame, of course, is going to be interesting to see where they're ranked. I don't think Notre Dame has got any shot of sliding up there with this 1 loss. I just don't see it happening. And then it's going to be interesting also to see where Wake Forest, Auburn, I already mentioned, even SMU, and see where they're ranked. So it's going to be very interesting, this first poll. And there's some games this weekend that will affect that for sure. What else is going on in the news? We talked about Mike Leach and his candy corn. I got to play this with a Mike Leach wedding advice one day to you guys. Maybe we'll wait till he wins again. Texas Tech, we talked about firing their head coach, Matt Wells, the first playoff. Oh, here's an interesting story. All these rumors have come out this week, and Mike Tomlin is firmly denying them. I don't know if we have any Pittsburgh fans. I was hoping Mark would be here tonight so we could talk about this story, actually. Lots of rumors this week about Mike Tomlin being interested in the USC job, the LSU job. And he firmly said, no way, no way. But I'll tell you what. When guys are as adamant as Mike Tomlin was in his denial, watch out. Remember Nick Saban in Miami? it's reminding me of that, other than the fact that, Nick Saban's only there a couple of years. There's a couple other factors when it comes to Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's been in Pittsburgh a long time, really successful coach, a really good coach. But that team is not what it was. His quarterback is on his last legs, barely. And he doesn't have a future quarterback in place. If Mike Tomlin wanted to move and wanted to try to look, he's won Super Bowls. If he wants to start a new legacy or try to start a new legacy for himself, now's the time to do it. And I can see Mike Tomlin in Los Angeles, I think, for the USC Trojans. I could see him in LSU. Could see him at Penn State, maybe, if that job opens up. So I would take Mike Tomlin's denials right now with a grain of salt. Because this is a point in a coach's career where I can see him making a move. He's been very successful where he is. He's been there a long time. Might want to change, might want a different challenge. And things are not going to get better where he is right away. So don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on that. What else? The Heisman Race. Heisman Race is really heating up. I think Pickett from Pittsburgh is really starting to move up the charts. I think he and Corral, assuming Corral's can play up to his early season. Hang on one second there. I'll get back to that. Actually, let me get to it. I'll get to your comment here since we're still on that, Anthony. Urban Meyer tried that different ball game from the NFL to college. I agree. College to the NFL, very, very tough. Coaches do it. But coaches have gone from the NFL to college, Anthony, and been successful. I give you Exhibit A, Pete Carroll. Kind of, well, other than the fact he wasn't anywhere for a long period of time. Pete Carroll went to college and reinvented himself. So it does happen. And I'm sure there's Howard Schellenberger was a professional coach, went on to turned Miami Hurricanes into he started the Miami Hurricane dynasty, not Jimmy Johnson, don't forget. And by the way, there's a guy who's successful coming the other way, Anthony. So I understand your position, but it could happen. Urban Meyer, by the way, he's probably coming back to college next year. I wouldn't be shocked. But I don't know if anybody's going to want him with the baggage he's now got carrying around with him. So I think, anyway, keep an eye out for that. I'll circle back if you guys have more comments on that topic. Back to the Heisman. Pickett moved himself up nicely. Corral, if he stays healthy and can play like he did early in the year, I think Pickett and Corral might be, the top two guys right now. But don't count out Hackett from Wake Forest. If they go undefeated, he continues to carry this team with some astronomical numbers and great play. And I'll give you a sleeper. Thibodeau, the defensive lineman, linebacker, whatever position he plays today or this down out at Oregon. Been a long time since a defensive player won. I think only one defensive player ever won, Charles Woodson. I may be wrong, but I don't think anybody won before him. They don't like to vote for defensive players, but this is a weird year. Usually by now there's a pretty solid favorite. I was convinced by this time last year that Smith was going to win the Heisman. I was convinced, but I don't see a front runner this year. I mean, Matt Corral has been the front runner. He's had some injury issues now, not playing quite as well as he was. Bryce Young got off to a great start. Still playing well, but his fortunes will probably go the way of Alabama's. This could be the year a defensive guy sneaks in there, and we'll see. So if you guys have any thoughts on Heisman, bring it up now. All right. Nothing. Crickets. All right. Let's see what else we got. Let's look at this week's games. I know that Anthony was looking for an upset. I gave him one. Maybe I can give you a few more. Let's see. Okay. Let me go back. I'm going to do this a different way tonight. Let me go to the line so I actually see. I don't know if I get every game. I guess I do. All right. Let's do this way. Shall we? I don't know if I like it this way or not. Coastal Carolina, going to be a 17-point favorite over Troy. Should win easily. Bounce back with a big win, I think. Oh, here we go. You know, Anthony, you're right. I don't have a lot of names at the top of my head. Running backs haven't won. Yeah, this is it's weird how the cycles have gone for the Heisman. And I think I'm going to do this a different way when I get to it. So let me just things have gone really weird when it comes to the Heisman. It's gone in huge cycles, right? I can remember years when I was a kid, running backs won every year. Every year. John Cappelletti. Archie Griffin wins twice. Charles White. On and on and on. Into the 80s with Mike Rozier. Always a running back. Got a wide receiver thrown in there once in a while and a Tim Brown. Then it was quarterbacks. Then it was kind of back and forth. Charles Woodson actually won in the 90s. Then it flipped back to now. It's almost always quarterbacks until last year when Smith kind of broke that trend. Maybe it's time for a running back to win again. Who's the last? That's a good question, guys. Let's take a quick look. Who was the last? They have face masks. Oh, that's not funny, Rick. No, John Cappelletti did play with a face mask. We got Penn State fans in the house. They better know who John Cappelletti is. Tell you right now. Let's find out, because I don't know. I really don't know right this second who the last running back is that won. Try to find a one with the first face mask, too, for you, Rick, while we're looking at it. Yeah, the kid, yes, Robinson from Texas looks good. There was a kid from there's a kid from Michigan, too, that has played well. The kid from the Robinson kid from Texas has been phenomenal, but you almost got to win. You almost have to win. You almost have to be in a top 10 team to win these days. Last running back, Derrick Henry. We all know who he is. Alabama, 2015. But he's the only guy in the last two guys in the last 12 years have won as a running back. Mark Ingram was the one before him. Then you go to Reggie Bush, which vacated, which he wants it back because of the NIL nonsense. He thinks he ought to get it back. There's Jeff, my Penn State man. I knew he knew Cappelletti. So you met Cappelletti, Archie Griffin, and Joe Bellino at a golf outing 30 years ago. Joe Bellino. Now, he might not have wore a face mask, Rick. I'm not sure. Maybe Jeff can speak to that. Joe Bellino was a while ago. Let me find out. Now that I got this list up, when did Joe Bellino win? Got to go back further than this, I know. Joe Bellino, 1960. So, yes, I would say he was wearing a face mask. Navy. Got to love those Navy guys. Early 60s. You're right. Actually, 1960. Good call there, Jeff. I actually got in front of me, so I cheated. So, the Heisman Race, is it the best player? It's not the most valuable player. It's not like the NFL or MLB or something where it's the most valuable player. It's supposed to be the best college football player. That could be a defensive player. So keep an eye. Now, Thibodeau didn't play a lot early in the year. He only had 30 or 40 snaps, I think, in September, which will hurt him a bit, but he's playing some great football right now. And it's been that kind of weird year. Doesn't it feel like this entire year is so weird that it could be a year that a defensive player wins this trophy? Might be interesting. How bad are some of these guys that won Heisman trophies, though? Danny Werfel. I'm only going to go back to... Let's look at some of these losers. I'm sorry, guys. You won the Heisman. I shouldn't be dissing you. I've never won anything. Let's go back to... I just got to do this now. 1980. George Rogers had a decent career. Marcus Allen had a great career. Herschel Walker, okay career. Didn't turn out to be what he thought it would be. But he did certainly make the Dallas Cowboy dynasty by getting traded. Mike Rozier, nothing. Doug Flutie. I'm just not a Doug Flutie fan. Had a couple good years in Buffalo. Bo Jackson should have played baseball. Vinny Testaverde had a decent career. Tim Brown, great career. Barry Sanders, we all know how good he was. Now we get to some guys. Andre Ware. What? Ty Detmer. Desmond Howard. Beat my Patriots in damn Super Bowl with the Packers because Parcells kept kicking him the frickin' ball. Other than that, not much of a NFL career. Gino Torretta? Now, I'm sure these are all nice guys and great college football players. I'm not trying to disparage them, I promise you. Rashaan Salam, who I think has tragically passed away, he did not have much of an NFL career. Eddie George, a great career. Danny Werfel, just a great career. I'm just kidding. No, he didn't. Charles Woodson, the last defensive player to win. Great career in the NFL. Ricky Williams, pretty good career. Better pot smoker. Ron Dane, you Giant fans know what I'm talking about. Chris Weinke, I think he won the Heisman at 35 years old. Didn't become much of a player. Eric Crouch. Nope. Carson Palmer had a good career. Jason White. Nothing. Matt Leinart. Nothing. Reggie Bush. Troy Smith. Nope. Tim Tebow. We all know Tebow. Nope. Sam Bradford. Mark Ingram. Not a bad career for a running back. I mean, again, not much longevity there. Cam Newton had some good years. By the way, guys, he's done now. Just if you watch my shows and hear me talk about the Patriots while he was still there, he's done. You've seen the fact that he's not signed anywhere. With some of the quarterbacks that play in the NFL, Cam can't play. Robert Griffin, amazing to me that he didn't make it. And I think that's on Mike Shanahan and what he did to him in his rookie year when they made the playoffs. Johnny Manziel, train wreck. Jameis Winston, if you like interceptions, he's your guy. Marcus Mariota, how'd he miss? Derrick Henry, great player. Lamar Jackson, great player. But will the league catch up with him? Baker Mayfield, good player. Kyler Murray, outstanding, exciting, dynamic player. Joe Burrow, going to be a Hall of Famer. And Devonta Smith, I said, would be a generational type player. And I think that, going back in time, I said the Jets should have drafted him and kept Darnold, and time will tell whether I'm right or wrong. Anyway, I don't know how I got off on that topic, but there you have it. Heisman Trophy winner since 1980 and how they did afterwards. Guys, I'm not disparaging them. They're great players. Just didn't make it in the NFL. All right, let's take a look at this week's games, guys. Coastal Carolina hosting Troy. Big win for Coastal Carolina. I don't think I'd want to be Troy this week. Coastal Carolina lost a tough game to Appalachian State last week. Wouldn't want to be them. Tulane's at home against number 2 Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's going to win this one big. They need to win big. The rest of these schools we talked about in the running for the playoff just need to win, because the competition they're playing is so much better than what Cincinnati will play. But Cincinnati will play Houston and will play SMU, so they don't have a cakewalk all the way through. But they got to win these games more convincingly than they won a couple of them. One of the biggies, maybe the biggest game, Michigan against Michigan State. I like Michigan State to win this game at home with the points. It will be one of my wagers this week if it's in my choices in the cigar box. It better be. Shannon, I'm sorry if you're watching. I'm not threatening you. I'm already on double secret probation for violation last week. So Iowa at Wisconsin should be an interesting game. Wisconsin playing a little bit better football, and Iowa desperately needs this win to hang on to that South leader position and get into that championship game. You got Texas at Baylor. This is an interesting game. Texas has fallen back. They were all the rage. They were all the rage with Steve Sarkisian, earlier on. They scored 70 points against Texas Tech, and they had some good games, but now they're 4-3, 3-2 in the Big 12, out of that race most likely. Baylor has rebounded nicely this year under their second year head coach, which is escaping me at the moment. Dave Aranda doing a great job after some struggles last year, and replacing a really good coach in Matt Rule. He's done a good job this year getting his team back on beam. I think Baylor will win this game against Texas at home. Pittsburgh and Miami. I like Miami, but Pittsburgh is playing some really good football. They're at home. Tough spot for Miami here, I think. And I think Pittsburgh will get the win. Iowa State and West Virginia. Iowa State's playing better football of late. They still got a chance to get to the conference championship game. And Jamarcus Russell was a disappointment to the Heisman. Was he? I didn't even see him on my list. Did he win? Did I run right by him, or? I don't think he won. No, he didn't win. I don't know the year he came out. He was the number 1 pick in the draft, yes, Anthony, but he didn't win the Heisman Trophy. But I will give you the fact that he was certainly one of the worst number 1 picks ever in the history of the NFL. Is our delay that much for some of you guys? Oh, no bad. No big deal. We can't all know the stuff that I know with all the information sitting right in front of me. Florida hosting number 1 Georgia. You still here, Rick Sherlock? I'm not going to predict an upset. I'm going to say Florida's in this game. This is going to be one of my games. I say Florida will have the ball in the 4th quarter with a chance to tie the game. Probably a big spread in that game, too. Do I have that open? See if we can find out what the spread is in that game. Where are you? Is it fun to watch me looking at this? I can't find them. There they are. 14.5-point underdogs at home. Telling you, Rick's still here. Give me your score, Rick. I say Florida is in this game in the fourth quarter with a chance to tie the game. Now that might mean they get beat by 21, but they'll have a chance with the ball to tie the game in the fourth quarter. Give me your score. I'll come back to you. Oklahoma, Texas Tech. The aforementioned Texas Tech, will they get a bump? Don't know who their interim coach is, to be honest with you. Oklahoma, just playing good enough to get by teams. They got to play better. They got to play better, or they're leaving themselves in a position. One loss, they're out. Where some other one-loss teams are going to have a shot. I think we got Rick's score. 34-10. I know it's not at home. It's in the state of Florida, though, right? You know what I'm talking about. Florida is considered the home team in this game. Not in Athens. So I agree. I'm still going to stand by my prediction. It's just been that kind of year. I would not be shocked to see Georgia lose a game. As good as, and again, Rick, I told you I'm in on this team. I think I said it last week when I'd had a lot of Rum Island. Frog Island cocktail. I think that's when I said that, but I do mean it. I am in on Georgia. They're the best team in the country by far. But this has been a crazy year. Nothing's going to surprise me. Oregon gets Colorado at home. They need a convincing win. This year's team will not have a letdown against Florida. We'll find out. Again, this has been a spot. This is a spot for them, right? They got to win these games. Because they have had letdowns here in the past. Anyway. Great team. Your team's in position. You win this game, beat Alabama, it don't matter. Wake Forest should take care of business at home against Duke. Ole Miss and Auburn. This is a sneaky good game, man. I like Auburn as much as I like Ole Miss, and I said I didn't think they'd lose. It's possible they wouldn't lose to anybody but Alabama and Georgia. Auburn's playing much better football the last month, and I think Auburn wins this game if they can score enough points. Kentucky and Mississippi State. I got to tell you what. I got to find this other. This might be the place to play this cut. Where am I? We got time? I think I do. You guys want to see another Mike Leach? Let me see if I can find it. You guys tell me if you want to see. If you don't want to see it, I won't show it. But while I'm looking for it, you guys say yay or nay. I got a great Mike Leach cut on weddings. And I will play it if you should want to see it.
That face that is usually covered by her phone has finally
Really
made
didn't
an
want to do
appearance. That face wouldn't be doing that
Can I
if you
skip
weren't
this?
staying at a.
Well, it's
All right. So you guys wait. If you guys give me the thumbs up, I will play this. He's funnier than hell. Carlos, if you see this cut, I won't play it tonight because Carlos voted no. Carlos voted no. I'll stick to the football. Where are we? Is Wake versus Duke a trap game? You know, Carlos, welcome, by the way, Carlos. Always happy to have you aboard. Carlos gets the final vote on Mike Leach. You know what? It could be. Could be. Man, that team has to be exhausted at a run up and down the field at Army last week. I don't think Duke's good enough or going to score enough points to beat this Wake Forest team. Now, I think there's places where Wake Forest is going to have a chance to lose. I just don't think this is it. It's possible, though, Carlos, because I guarantee you they're looking ahead to the tougher teams on their schedule, and that's North Carolina State and Clemson. I think Wake Forest, Pittsburgh, ACC championship game, undefeated Wake Forest against one-loss Pittsburgh would be an awesome ACC matchup and the best they could have hoped for. Maybe not what they wanted, but given everything that's gone on, the best they could hope for. So there's Carlos's comment on Mike Leach. Penn State's going to take an L and drop out of the top 25. It's possible, Anthony. Oregon's alive just because the Pac-12 is bad, and that's one of the reasons they're not alive in my mind for a playoff spot, because that league is so bad. Some teams play their competitors. Well, yeah, I agree, Carlos. I mean, that's what I've been talking about with Oklahoma. Anthony was asking me why Oklahoma isn't ranked over Alabama, undefeated against one loss, but Oklahoma has not dominated the teams they need to dominate. And guys, look for that. Leach is a lawyer, never played college football. Guys, I want to play this so bad, but I don't want Carlos to jump on me. Keep commenting, Carlos. Maybe I'll play it to end the show. You guys can all leave, and I'll laugh and enjoy myself. Let me see how long that cut is. Hold on. It's 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Keep those comments coming, Carlos. Where was I? Oklahoma State, Kansas. Oklahoma State is going to bounce back in a big way here. This is still a team that is very much in a race for the Big 12 championship, as is Oklahoma, obviously, as is Iowa State, as is Baylor. I think they win big this week. Here's a game I love. I want to watch this game Saturday night so bad. I wish I had one more night outside on the patio with a fire to watch a game, and I don't think I'm going to get this Saturday because I think it's going to rain, and next week I'm putting everything away. SMU at Houston. SMU is playing some great football. Sonny Dykes has got this team rolling, undefeated. Cincinnati's still got to play both these teams. Cincinnati's got to be careful they don't fall here. Now we get to the Penn State-Ohio State game that we talked about. Tough spot for Penn State. Ohio State's rolling over teams right now. I do not think Penn State, especially with a bang-up Clifford at quarterback, is going to be able to score enough points. Ohio State straightened out their defense a bit. Their offense is off the charts. Stroud is really playing some good quarterback right now. Probably got himself in a Heisman conversation, or will before the season's over. North Carolina, Notre Dame. This is an interesting game. North Carolina, one of the most disappointing teams on the season, getting a Notre Dame team with one loss, but I don't know that they're that good. I know we had this conversation last week that Notre Dame would get in if they had one loss. Won't happen. Unless total chaos hits, Notre Dame's not going to be able to get there. And then you got Fresno State at San Diego State. Where's the rest of our let's see where the rest of our we want to talk about our armed forces teams for sure. You guys come up with any closing comments you have, because I'm going to probably wrap up here soon. But I want to look at where our other armed forces teams. It looks like Army's got a bye this week, and Navy. Oh, we talked about Navy's playing Tulsa. That could be a win for Navy. I like that. I think I like Navy there. And let's see where. Where's Air Force? Mountain West. Well, Air Force is on a bye as well. So Navy's the only military academy playing this weekend. Army, Air Force next week. That'll be a really good game, Jeff. good catch there. I'll go back to Carlos. I missed your comment there, but I'll go back to it. Army Air Force next week. That ought to be a really good game. And you got Army Navy, which is always, an interesting watch. Navy's down this year. Army's, I think, on I want to say a 3-game winning streak in that series, which was really dominated by Navy for quite some time. Army's on a good run here. Jeff Monken's just a great, great, great coach. And the coach, I'm forgetting the coach's name at Arizona. Is Calhoun still there? Really good coach as well. I think it's Calhoun. And the Air Force is playing some really good football as well. This game will be a long game too. OSU versus PSU. Oh, Ohio State University. It'd be a long. What you think it's going to be 9 overtimes, Carlos, or stupid rule? I mean, is Rob Manfred running the NCAA? I mean, seriously, good grief. What other games we got? What other games you guys got that you're interested in? What other topics you got? What have I missed? I think one comment. Carlos, you're here. 10 OTs. Carlos is calling 10 OTs and a new record in the Ohio State-Penn State game this week. Carlos, you weren't here when I brought this up. I don't think. A couple guys did comment on coaches moving from college to the pros and blah, blah, blah. Mike Tomlin is vehemently denying the red-hot rumors that he's interested in jumping to college, possibly USC or LSU. Anytime a coach is this vehement in denying a rumor, there's something to it. And I think there's something to this one. I think this is a time that Mike Tomlin may make that move. Carlos is now backing up on his 10 overtime prediction and calling it 2021, I believe, for Ohio State. So, Carlos, you can comment. I think there is something to the Mike Tomlin rumors that this might be the time in his career where he's been in Pittsburgh long enough. He's done all he can do. He's won Super Bowls. His quarterback is on his last leg, ankle, something. This might be a time Mike Tomlin looks for a new challenge. And you can comment, but I'm going to go back to Anthony's. I don't know if I'd call that an upset. Let's check out the game's at Auburn. Anthony, I love Auburn in this game, actually. And I got to see, let's see what the spread is. Is it actually an upset? Because to be honest with you, I don't look at rankings and say, number 16 beat number 10, and it's an upset. Not if number 10's playing at number 16. Got a bug on my leg here. Let's see what the line is. I know Carlos is feverishly typing away about Mike Tomlin. Come on, where are you, Auburn? Somebody help me out. Oh, come on. How come things aren't easy to find when you're old? Probably scrolled by it 7 times already. Then there was Auburn is a 3-point favorite over Mississippi at home. So I wouldn't call that an upset, Anthony, but I like Auburn a lot, so I'm with you there. Tomlin, Pittsburgh, 3 more years. Carlos doesn't agree with me either. Maybe Carson Palmer can backdoor and take the. That's an interesting thought. But gosh. I mean, is USC going to go with somebody with no coaching experience at all? Guess we can spend a few minutes talking about this topic. We'll talk about 2 high-profile jobs open, LSU and USC. Either one of them going to take an inexperienced head coach? I think not. LSU is going to go for a big name. We know they're going to go for a big name. Their AD likes to make a big splash. So you can start writing down Urban Meyer's name. You can start writing down Lane Kiffin's name. You can write down James Franklin's name. I still want to see Bob Stoops come out of retirement. Bob Stoops is too young and too good a football coach to be sitting on the sidelines. Palmer and Brothers. Jesse's not giving up that cooking show gig he's got or The Bachelor. What doesn't Jesse host like The Bachelor or some stupid thing? Bachelorette. I know he hosts show on the Food Network, and the guy's everywhere. He's like poor man's Ryan Seacrest, for crying out loud. Oh, so anyway, start thinking about those names for LSU. USC, I don't know what they're going to do. So if Urban Meyer comes back to the NCAA, where's he going? I would have said before a few weeks ago he could have had his pick of jobs, Anthony, but this whole nonsense with the co-ed and, the bar and it's a bad visual if you want to go back to the NCAA. These guys can make ton for draft days. Those guys make a ton for draft days. I don't know if I'm following you, Carlos. Oh, it's been a good show today. Good show. No Mark Mancini. Sorry, guys. We don't know what happened to Mark. We hope he will coach at Swanee. I think he'll coach your Middle Tennessee team next year, Carlos. Hey, guys got to start over. Maybe Texas Tech takes a swing at our Urban Meyer. Texas Tech might take a swing at Orgeron. Texas Tech could come away with a really good head coach if they wait. Will it do them any good? I don't know, because they're Texas Tech and they can't recruit against these other Texas teams and Big 12 teams. They're never going to be relevant. They're relevant for a little while under Mike Leach. Oh, I see. Palmer Brothers have a Lockett coaching at quarterbacks NFL draft time. Gotcha. Well, still doesn't give you experience in coaching big time college football. So I don't know. I just don't see USC going that direction and taking somebody that unproven. Just don't see it. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Been a good show. We got some really good football. We're really getting into some rivalry games in Michigan State. You got Ole Miss and Auburn this week. I'm excited to watch this SMU Houston game. I really think Lane's a good coach. I do think Lane's a good coach. I won't wrap it up yet because I do think Lane Kiffin's a really good coach. Who else wins at Florida Atlantic? He won at USC. I think Lane's, is Lane a self-promoter? Yeah, but Lane Kiffin can coach offensive football. I think he's a really good coach. Well, he's surrounded by a great staff because that's what great coaches do. Take a look at some of those coaches around Nick Saban or Kirby Smart. Great coach. Look at some of the coaches that were under Tom Osborne at Nebraska and Woody Hayes at Ohio State. John McKay out at the USC. Sorry, Rick, I'm starting to get back to no face mask time. He's a putz. Oh, God. Carlos, first of all, I think you're too young to be able to use that term, a putz. And I can't believe they use it from the part of the world that you're from. Is that a commonly used term? He was junk in Tennessee and he walked out on him. But Oh, that's why you hate him. Now it's all coming together. Guys learn from Saban. I don't disagree, but so Carlos, I have finally figured out. I didn't catch this right away. Your axe to grind with Kiffin is he walked out on Tennessee, and then it's fair enough. I get it. Yeah, well, does he need to coach? What does he need to teach and learn from the Kiffin? He needs to go and win football games. It's not his job to make coaches better. And by the way, Nick Saban, a lot of those guys that have coached under Nick Saban have been pretty established coaches already. Lane Kiffin, Steve Scarsazian, rehabilitating their careers. Did they learn from him? Sure, he's the greatest college coach of all time, baby. Not saying Lane Kiffin is Nick Saban. Don't get me wrong. But I do think he's a good coach. I really do. And I know you got an axe to grind with him because of that Tennessee deal. Oh, guys, I'm out of time. We got a great week coming up. Carlos, sorry you got in so late. Thanks for coming in, though. Oh. We had a great time. We got some great football coming up. Next week, we're going to have our don't forget, first real playoff poll will be out when we're on live next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. This Friday, up in the air. I don't know that I got a guest. I may be winging it and talking about, I don't know. Carlos, call me. Give me a topic we can talk about Friday if I don't have a guest. We need something good. Can't talk college football. I got this show. Maybe we'll talk basketball. Knicks and Nets. Where's he going to win, Carlos? On Mars? Keith Engel. TGI Sports Talk College Football Huddle right here on Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Guys, I'm out of here. Have a great Wednesday night.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.